Let's break down your cash register report and see how much it is trying to tell you. There is a hint. It tells you so much more than just the sales number. You may be surprised. Let's go and get started.
Welcome to the one and only Gas Station Business 101 podcast, where you can learn all the secrets about how to start and operate a gas station business successfully and make money. This podcast is brought to you by the good folks at GSB Academy Publishing Company. And now, here is your host, Shabir Hossain.
Welcome to Gas Station Business 101 podcast. I am Shabir Hossain. And this is episode number 36. This is the show where we discuss how to start, run, and grow a gas station business successfully. And I give you the inside look at many real-life case studies so you can follow and become successful in your own business. In this episode, we will break down and see how we can read and analyze a cash register report. Why is that important? Well, because cash register report is the one report that your business produces every day that tells you everything money-wise, what you have done for the day or for the month or for the week. So it is the most important piece of paper that you produce every day from your register that tells you if there is any problem, what are the health issues of your business, and how well you're doing financially. So this is one vital and important piece of document, and we need to analyze and see how we can read this report and gather information about a business. In the event you do not own a business yet, it is more important for you to understand how to read and analyze a cash register receipt, because when you're looking to buy a business, you may be able to get access to some of these daily reports that the cash register prints out and some shift reports. And it is vital for you to analyze those reports so you know exactly what is going on in their business. If it is healthy, if it is not. When they provide you with a P&L, it's usually done on a computer, and anybody can plug in any data on a computer. It can be made up data. It can be data that are not correct or transposed somehow where numbers are really not true for that matter. So once you get to see what's really taking place at the register level, you know exactly these are the real numbers, because nobody will start ringing up fake sales at a store over and over every day. It's usually not done, even though at one incident, I have seen that happen to a buyer where I looked at those numbers and it seemed very odd because the register report did not match whatever they were buying. And what I mean by that is when I analyzed their purchase history, the invoices, that didn't add up the sales. Let's, for example, say they were buying $30,000 worth of merchandise a month and they were showing $100,000 worth of sales a month. That does not make sense, because you can pretty much understand that if you buy something, you need to sell that with a profit. But how much profit? In convenience stores, in gas stations, our profit margins are usually 25 to 30% if you take a gross average. Yeah, there are departments that we make 50%. There are categories of departments where we make 15%. But if you take an average, it usually comes out from 25 to 30, depending on the store and how competitive the store is. But it shouldn't be 70 or 80% profit. So when I saw sales of 30,000 purchase of 30,000 versus 100,000 sales, I knew there was something wrong. But I don't want you to worry about it right now, because it is very rare that you will find somebody that crooked that would try to sell a business that has this problem. Ideally, whenever I look at a business, I try to see and look and analyze some of these cash register reports, but not every day's report. I usually ask for random reports. I would say give me February 15th, give me March 5th, give me April 7th. That way, even if somebody's trying to fudge those data, they will not be doing that every day for month after month. Usually, in this type of situation, if somebody's crooked enough to do this, they will do it maybe a week before the new buyer is coming to look at the store, not months after months, because that is not something anybody is thinking that ahead of time. And if they're that smart, then good for them. But anyway, getting back to the point, we need to analyze and learn how to analyze cash register report. As I said, this is the most vital piece of information you can analyze for a business. Typically, when we get a cash register report, let's say you own a business and you go to your store every day, and first thing you do is you pick up your daily closeout report and just take a look at how much you sold the previous day, how much merchandise you sold versus how much fuel you sold. That's normally what we look at. And then we don't worry about the rest. If you're trying to find out what's really going on in the business, there are more data in that long piece of paper or pages and pages of reports that it prints out. There are more data that you can analyze than just looking at the sales number. But overall, as I said, if with the business owners, you own the business, you're not trying to analyze anything else, you pick up that report and see how much you sold the previous day or previous month or week for that matter. But I like to break it down so you can all understand what else is your register telling you. And for us to get a clear understanding, this is what needs to happen. I'm posting some image of cash register reports that I have scanned recently for a store. So when you're listening to this episode, it would be a good idea to at least look at those images. And I will try to add these images to the podcast as well. Wherever you download this from, see if you can download those images as well. If not, you can go to my blog, gasstationbusiness101.com, and on the very first page, the landing page, you will see episode number 36. But if you're listening to the show a few months down the road, all you have to do is go to my blog, hit the tab says podcast, go to episode number 36 and take a look at all these images. I have different arrows pointing out with different numbers, and we're going to analyze those numbers and tell you what exactly they're revealing in those reports. But as I said, not everybody listens to a podcast while looking at a computer. So I understand that. So I will try to break it down so listeners can understand what I'm talking about. But when you get a chance, if you would go to the blog or wherever you download this podcast from, if you can take a look at those images, you will have a much clearer understanding as to what I was explaining. So without further ado, let's get started. One important thing, the images that you will be seeing are from a Ruby Verifone cash register system. But there are few other types of registers out there. If you are in gas station business, I'm sure you have seen other registers. But there are three most popular ones. So chances are, if you buy a station or if you have a gas station, you have one of these three registers. Now, there are exceptions to this rule, but as I said, if you take a survey, most likely 80-85% of the gas stations, you will see that they're using these three types of registers. The most three popular ones are Ruby Verifone, Gilbarco Passport, and Wayne Nucleus. Whichever one you may have at your store, the basics of the report are usually the same. It may call it by a different name, but it usually gives you pretty much the same data as any other register. So if you have any other type of register, you should still be able to understand and locate the similar items in your report as well. Now, let's look at the very first image. I have 5 arrows pointing to different sets of numbers there. Since most of you are not seeing the image as you listen to this show, or so I assume, let me just clarify what I'm talking about here. Most register report starts off with the very top part says what day it is, what type of report it is, and what is the duration of this report. Meaning, if it is a shift report, it will say shift report. It will say when the shift started, let's say 6 a.m., and it will say end shift will be, let's say, 2 p.m. So 6 to 2 is a shift for you, and that's what it will tell you, and it will say the name of the cashier. Most registers get to provide you with a space where you can enter all cashiers' names, so at a glance you know who worked that day and what shift they worked. Now, the stores that are equipped with dual register system, let's say you have 2 registers in your store. The way it works is one register will act as the master register, means that is the primary register. Next one will be a slave register. So when you run a report, though it be a shift report or a day closeout report, which is the whole day's report that combines all of the shifts, the master register is the one you need to run that report from, and that master register will print out report. That includes both of the register, and it will post the sales on the right after the shift name and what day and whatnot. It will say register 1, this much money came in, and this much was payout, this much was credit card. Then it will say register 2, we have done such and such sales versus such and such payout, and how much money that register generated from that shift or day sales. It is done this way so it's easier for you to just look at everything that happened in your store in one report and not 2. Let's say if it was giving you 2 different reports from 2 different registers, when you're doing data entry in your computer for your day sales, you would have to add each number twice. Because let's say you're entering data for your beer sales or cigarette sales, you would have to look at both registers and say, okay, register 1 did $200, register 2 did $300. So I need to add these 2 and then enter that data into my computer. But having one being the master, the other being slave, and one pulling the data from the other, you get a summary report of both registers. On the very first image, you're seeing 3 parts of that report. As it is a skinny and long report, I cut it into pieces and I put top 3 parts together and I scanned it. So very right one would be the very first of the report, where it says number 5. That's where the name of the cashier is and what store and when did the shift started, when did it end, and all of those details are there. The middle section is right underneath. It should go right underneath the very right part of the report, and then the very left one should be underneath that. So it's 3 part put together and scanned. So don't let that confuse you. So what it does is after the names, it says register 1 and it lists the sales, and then it goes to register 2 and list whatever sales it has done. In this case, in this image, you may see that there is no register 2. I take it back. There is no register 1. There is register 2. There is no register 1. So in this case, this register 2 is acting as the master and register 1 is the slave, even though the register 1 does not exist in this case. And you will see on this report, it just lists 2 things at top. It says net sales total and payout total. Why? Why it's not giving me any more information? Because when a cashier is shifted out, this is a shift report, only thing the cashier is concerned about, how much money does she or he have in the drawer versus how much the report tells her that she or he has in the cash drawer. So it is to make things easier for them. They're saying, okay, you brought in $1,100, for example, in your shift, and then you paid 2 vendors, which was $300. So you should have $800 in your drawer. So they can quickly look at that number and count the money and say, I match. My numbers do match with my reports. So to make that easier for them, that's the reason it's there. But for you, there are more numbers we need to look at. So let's go to the second, the column that's in the middle. That is the second part of the register report, which is indicated by number 3. And in that number, there is a heading called memo total. This is one important piece of information that I usually look at whenever I'm analyzing a store. This is why. This memo total gives you how many items were sold in that shift or that day, depending on what report you're looking at. For in this shift report, as you can see that, or if you haven't seen, in this shift, the total sales were $1,794. And out of that, vendor payout was $700. So the register is telling the cashier she should have had $1,094 in her drawer. Then next is the memo total. This is where some vital information is given to you. One, as I said, is number of items. How many number of items were sold? If you use a scanner, then the computer or the register remembers every time you scan something, it remembers it as an item. So altogether, the store sold 480 items. Why is this vital? Well, not really, but if you keep a track of it, you will know a trend that, hey, when I do $1,000 sales, my average item number is about 450 or something similar to that. So anytime you see a odd number there, let's say your sales are $2,000 and you only sold, or not only sold, your sales were $2,000 and you have item count 1,500. Then there is something odd about that, because the average, if you remember your average is 400 something for 1,000 items, then why would it be 1,500 items for $2,000 sales? It should have been 800 item count for $2,000 sales. Just double the one that we talked about for 1,000 to 400 item count. So for $2,000 sales should have been 800 item count. This is one indication that there was a foul play going on. And to me, if you want to keep a track, get used to learning these tricks where your item count average. There is no set number for this for any store. Every store will vary, but there still, if it is a convenience store, it is selling the regular items like fuel and Coke, Pepsi, drinks, beer, soda, cigarettes, tobacco, then there is some type of norm and there's some type of standard, even though, as I said, it would vary from store to store. But if you learn the norm in your store, at a glance, you will know if there is anything different about a day or two that you've noticed the numbers didn't match up. The next number it gives you is how many customers came through the door during that shift. So in this case, it says 238 customers came during that shift of 6 to 2. Again, this is something you can get accustomed to. You can get used to learning how many customers usually come on a morning shift versus how many come on a night shift. So once you train your eyes with this type of numbers, these are the norms, these are the safety measures that you can install in your mind, that anytime you see an odd number, you can set up a range in your mind that, hey, if I do $1,000 in a shift, my average item count is about 450 and my customer count is about 250, for example. So anytime that number is out of range by 100, 200, 300, then there is a problem. But if the range should be within another 75 or 80, let's say. So you can say 200 to 300 customer count is my range. Anytime it goes above or below, you need to worry what happened. Are people buying, all of a sudden coming in and buying? Let's say you have a customer count of 500, but your sale is only 1,000. But the norm was 250. That was the average. All of a sudden, if it raises or rise up to 500, then you have to worry that what happened today. Did all my customer come in and buy a piece of gum and just left? Or did they not buy anything normal, like $5, $6 cigarettes? Why the customer count is so high? So these are, as I said, safety measures that you can install in your own mind and just have a range of numbers in your mind. And anytime these numbers go out of range, red flag should be up. And next number is a very important one. As I said, the first one is item count. Next one is customer number, how many customers. Third one is no sales. In this day's event, there were 27 no sales. What is no sales? No sales, there is a button on every register that says no sales. Why is there a button called no sales in every register? Well, funny thing is, there are times your cashier has to open the register, but not for selling or paying anybody, but to make change. Let's say a customer comes in, gives a dollar bill and says, I need to get 4 quarters so I can put some air in my tire. You need to open your register. How can you open the register without selling anything by pressing the no sell button. Now, this is one item I know most gas station owners look at, because this is one clear indication. If the numbers are very high, you know there is something going on, because your cashier has no reason to keep opening the register with a no sell button. And as I said, the average shouldn't be even 27. In this instance, in this case, the number seems high to me. For a shift, it should have been about 10 to 15. Not that every shift there are 15 people coming in with $1 and asking for change, but there are other reasons, like your cashier needs to drop money to the safe, so they will hit the no sell button, count the money, drop the money, and whatever the case is, but it shouldn't be 30, 40, 50 in a shift. Once you see that high number, you know they're doing something wrong. And what is something wrong that they can do? Well, in my experience, I have seen where they are not ringing up the right amount, but charging people the right amount. Let's say somebody's buying 2 packs of cigarette and a beer. They will ring up half of those items and say, your total is $15.79. And the person gives out a $20 bill. They will open the register with a no sell button, make change, give them that difference of $20 minus $15.79, because they will count it in their head. And later on, once the customer leaves, they will hit the no sell button once again to take out that $15.79, because they know they did not ring up for that money, or they rung up half of it, so they will subtract that half and take the other half out. So they will most likely take out $7.20 or 30 cents. That's the reason they have to keep opening with a no sell, because they're still calculating in their head, okay, last 3 customers, I ripped off 2 of them, or I ripped off the owner twice. So I need to remember how much money I need to take out of the register. If not, I will be over. And most times the cashier wants to make sure this register is even before the shift change, because once the shift change happens, there might be a manager, there might be an owner, somebody else looking at the paperwork and say, why are you over by $200? So that's why they keep hitting the no sell button and taking the money in their pocket. The next set of numbers under that same category, memo total, after no sells, the next number comes in is error corrections. And in this case, in this day, it happened 14 times. Dollar amount is $46.31. What is that? Let's say you bring 5 items to the register: candy bar, milk, beer, bread. And once the cashier started ringing up all these items, all of a sudden you say, I don't want the milk. What the cashier does an error correction. So she voids that item, and then continues to ring you up, and then gives you the total, and you pay, and you're done. But the register keeps a memory of it, that how many times there are error correction. And in this case, it is normal to have $14, $15, $30, even $40, as high as $40, $50 in a shift, because some people can say, I need to buy a carton of cigarettes. The cashier rings it up, and he or she say, how much is it? $52? No, I don't want it. In that event, they have to do an error correction. So it can be that, and that's okay. But if this number rises, let's say in a shift, you see 25, 30 times. In this case, this shift was only 14 times. And in my book, it's within the limit, within the range of acceptance. But if you notice that it's 20 or 30 times and the dollar amount is $200-300, do worry about it. Do watch that cashier next day on your video system to see why they're hitting the error correction button so many times. But you have to see a pattern. If the cashier only did it once, it could have been something that some mistakes might have happened that day. But if you see a pattern of one cashier always is higher than anybody else, so either he or she is not paying attention or they're doing something wrong. The next item is the most important item: void tickets. It's void tickets. What is void tickets? Anytime you have to completely void out a sale. Let's say I bought 2 gallons of milk, 3 loaves of bread, and I paid for it. And then I said, I don't want it. I want my money back. What they have to do at that point is give you a refund, a void. They will bring up that sale and say it's a void sales. Means I'm taking the money out of the register, giving it to the customer. This is the riskiest thing because a lot of the dumb cashiers, I would call them, not so smart cashiers, that's the way they steal. Because let's say they're not good with math, they can't calculate, and they cannot say, okay, he's buying 3 packs of cigarette, I'll just ring up 2 and add the other third pack in my head, and I'll steal that third pack's money. But here is your total, pay me the money, and then they take it out of the register. A lot of cashiers are not that smart to calculate all that. So what they do is they say, I'll just simply void a sale and take the money. So if you are looking at anything other than your sales in your cash register report, you need to look at the void ticket numbers. As I said, this is the most common way people can steal from you, which is by voiding a sale. So in this case, in this report, there are 2 voids totaling $21.12. And I would say I would accept that as a mistake, or on behalf of the customers, or the customer's part. Yes, there might be some times that they bought a pack of cigarettes and say, hey, I know I bought it for somebody else. This is not what they want. And the other kind they wanted, the store doesn't have it. So there might be a void ticket. So $20 in a $1,100, $1,200 sales, semi-okay. It's not completely okay, but semi-okay. Now, if the number was 5 voids and $100, definitely I would worry about that. And the last item on that is suspended sales. Suspended is somebody tries to buy something and say, I forgot my wallet. Let me come right back. And they leave and don't come back, and the sale hangs in the register as a suspended sale. So too many of them can show you the cashier is not paying attention. It's not as much as theft, but it's not paying attention. So you shouldn't have suspended sale at the end of your shift. So that one thing you need to just monitor and see who's paying attention to work and who's not. Now, the next set of numbers is, if you're looking at this image number 1, the arrow pointing on the very left side says number 1, arrow number 1. In this one, they add up, the registers all add up, both of the register systems. So it says all register, even though you cannot read the all register word because the word all been cut off when I scanned the document, but it says all registers. So it adds up both of the registers and tells you how many credit cards, or how much credit card, debit and credit came, how much cash, and how much food stamp and checks came through. So this is the cash tender thing. When you have different options on your register as far as cash tender, not everybody pays through cash. Some people use credit card, some people use debit card, some people use checks, some people use food stamps or EBT for that matter, and some people use other commercial types of payment in some gas stations, not in this one, but those are the ones that are listed. So you need to see that and know how the money came to your store. And then it lists all the payouts. How many payouts were done in the store? How many vendors got paid cash? In this event, it says payout was just 1, and the payout was $700 even. Okay, the next one is number 2. As I said, that's where it lists all the payouts. How many payouts? It will not list the vendor's name because the cash register is not that smart where you would enter the name like Budweiser or Coca-Cola or Pepsi. It just says how many payouts were done in that shift or that day. And then if you're looking at number 4 arrow is pointing to the total sales for that shift as far as how much merchandise was sold and how much fuel was sold. It just gives you the total. It doesn't give you a breakdown here. It gives you the breakdown much later at the bottom of the shift reports. But here it just gives you an overall view that in this case it says total fuel sales were $448.79. That is in dollars, not in gallons, because here we're counting money, not gallons. The next one, it says total merchandise sales is $1,277.52. And sales tax, it says $68.25. So it adds up all these three totals and gives you a total for all of that. And this is where a lot of times, if you just want to take a glance how much the shift did, this is where you go and take a look. Okay, I did $1,200 merchandise and $400 gas or fuel, or I did $2,000 in merchandise and $1,000 in fuel. That's the quickest way you can look at your sales volume for that specific shift. Now, let's look at image number 2. And for those of you that are not looking at the image, the next image is the middle portion of the report. And this time I did not put 3 parts of the report side by side. I just put 2 of them because these reports are almost half a mile long. I'm exaggerating, of course. It's quite long, but I only copied the part I think you need to know. There are other reports, other information that you can use, of course, but these are the ones that are viral, most viral, I should say. So the second part, or the second image, what we're looking at is something called department reports. And arrow number 1 points to department reports. This is where you can find out how much of what you sold by category. This way, remember, when you're doing your data entry to keep track of how much cigarette you sold versus how much groceries sold versus how much soda, beer, cigarettes, and whatnot. So the right side of the report is the department report. And a couple of important things I want to mention as far as department reports. And when you get home, look at that because this is something important I want to point out. In this report, it says the first department is department number 2, because all the way to the top, it tells you what it is talking about at the bottom. So all the way to the top, it says department number. And department number for cigarette is number 2. It says cigarettes. Then it says 82. And right underneath, it says 0. And on the left side, well, I'm making it confusing. Let's take it back. One step back. Cigarette sales for this store was $396.02 for that shift. Now, there are a couple of things that I look at when I look at this department sales, only for cigarette, of course, which is how many customers bought cigarettes and what was the cost. So what I usually do is in Microsoft Excel, I enter the item count of cigarettes. For example, in this case, there are 79 packs of cigarettes were sold and the total selling dollar amount was $395.02. The reason I do this, which is I divide the total sales dollar amount for cigarettes and I divide that by number of packs sold. In this event, if I divide $395.02 divided by 79, where 79 packs were sold, we always sell cigarette by the pack. Even if we sell a carton, we do 10 times however much the pack cost. Let's say it's $5 a pack. We would do 10 times 5. So the counts remains the same. And in this event, if you divide $395.02 divided by 79, it comes to roughly about $5 even. Why is that important? Because once we enter the data, I set up a formula on my Excel, Microsoft Excel, where every day when I enter data, or my managers enter data, they also enter how many packs were sold. This way I keep a count of all the packs that are sold versus I keep a tally on whatever I'm buying every week. So I get to see how many packs I bought in a given month versus how many packs I sold. Not only that, if you see your average, that $5 that we just found out is the average price of cigarettes for that day. $5. So one day you divide that and you see your cigarette is $3 for that day. Then there must be a problem because cigarette all of a sudden didn't go down on prices. Prices tend to go up and not down. So all of a sudden, why would you have $3 average per pack cigarette sales in a day? That means there were sweetheart deals that are going on. What is a sweetheart deal? Well, your cashier may have a friend come in and say, I only have $2, but I need 2 packs of cigarettes. So your cashier rings up 2 packs of cigarette, $1 each. And they sell them for $2 and let's say with tax $2.20. That means it is a sweetheart deal. They're giving their friends a sweetheart deal. But who's getting hurt? You. And how would you find out? By looking at this number. If you see all of a sudden one day your average has dropped, then you know there is a problem. And cashiers know most stores count cigarettes, so they usually try not to steal cigarettes as long as you keep a count on it. And as long as they know you're checking on this type of things, then they will not steal cigarettes. And that's the reason I do that. So in this case, if you're looking at these numbers, you will see that cigarettes were sold 79 packs for $395, and there were 62 customers that came in and bought those 79 packs. So there were people that bought more than one pack. And this is the vital information is given to you right under this department report. And if there was any refund, it also tells you that right there, right under the item number, it tells you if there was any refund done on any departments, not only cigarettes, beer, soda, whatever, however many departments you have, it tells you if there was any refund done on those. Because remember, we talked about it earlier, there is a memo total where it tells you if there was any void or refund. This is where you get to see that. If there was a void sale, you will get to see it right here. So similarly, it lists all the departments, cigarettes, phone cards, beer, soda, deli, oil, and it tells you how much was sold under that department. So when you enter your data, you can go and enter looking at this department report. This is what most of us look at every day and enter data into our computer, unless we're using some of those fancy programs where it automatically pulls it to the back office system. But most single gas station owner do not want to spend that extra $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 to bring a back office software which interlinked with your register, and it pulls the data directly from your register to your back office. We will cover this in a separate episode later on if I see a huge demand for back office software, because I've used it many times. I know how it works, but as I said, they're very expensive. Okay, the next set of numbers are number 2 arrow, which is product totals. Right above product totals, it tells you about all the fueling points. What is fueling points? Every pump, every dispenser has two sides where two cars can pump right at one MPD or multi-product dispensers, because every pump has two sides. So each side is considered as a fueling point. So in this store's case, there are two MPDs, so there are 4 fueling points, and it breaks it down for you and tells you what fueling point sold how many gallons and how many dollar amounts and what grade. See, it gives you a lot of details. If it's unleaded, if it's unleaded plus, if it's premium, diesel, it tells you all of that. And then at the bottom, it gives you a product total. So I usually look at the product total. I don't look at what dispenser or what fueling point sold how much. I don't look at that. I don't need to. Unless one of my dispenser is broken, then I know fueling point 3 and 4 will not work, will not show any sales. But I only look at the product totals. In this case, they only sold unleaded fuel for that day because this station doesn't sell much fuel. So it says it sold 377.33 gallons of fuel, totaling in dollar would be $610.87. So it did sell a little bit of gas, but only unleaded. And this number I need to enter into my Microsoft Excel data sheet, because I'm keeping a tab of how much gasoline I'm selling every day and how much dollar amount that is translates to. And number 3 on the arrow report gives you something that I will mention, but you don't have to worry about this part. It keeps a running total. It says FP/hose running report. I don't know if you would remember, in the old days, every fuel pump had a number that used to roll every time you pump gas on the top and at the bottom, because these are mechanical pumps and they kept a mechanical running total of every gallon that was pumped out of that MPD or that fueling dispenser, I should say, not MPD. And now it's not a mechanical number rolling anymore, it's electronic. So your register keeps a tab of what running total your pumps are carrying. So if there is any mechanical issue, let's say your pump is pumping out more fuel than what it's supposed to, you should be able to catch it here. But it's much easier to call somebody and have them check it out, because it's very hard to catch these kind of things. But the report still provides you with this, where it says, for example, fueling 0.1. Unleaded is 108387.71, meaning 108,000 gallon and 397, I'm sorry, take it back. 110,397 gallons were pumped out of this dispenser from day one since this register or this pump was installed. So every day this will add any gasoline that it's selling, it will just add on top of that. So let's say in next 1 month, if this fueling 0.1 sold another 3,000 gallons, it will add to that 100,837 gallons plus that 3,000 that it added this month. So it's a running total that it keeps. And for me, I don't usually look at that part, but I just wanted you to know that this is what this running total of every hose in your pump is doing. Now, we're pretty much at the end, so let's look at the third image. And those of you that are not looking at the image, we're looking at the very bottom part of this report. And again, as I said, it's a mile-long report, and I left a lot of it out because fueling point 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, it adds everything, it analyzes everything, it gives you the running total, the sales for each day. Those take up space, so I did not want to bore you with those. The last piece of information that we need from this report is the batch report, the network report. And if you're looking at the third image, and again, those of you that are not looking at it, the right side, number 1 arrow says network report. What is network report? Network report is only about credit cards, how the credit cards came to the store, how they were processed, and how they were processed. So in this case, the network report says there were 45 count of charges that took place in that store for that shift, totaling $588.17. Right underneath there, it breaks down what credit cards came in. It lists in a way that says MC, which is MasterCard, 1, VI, which is Visa, 14. So basically, it just lists all the types of credit cards that are coming to your store. If it's American Express, it will say how many American Express came in. If you take commercial payments like Ride Express or Fuel Man, it will list those as well. So you know exactly, looking at those, what card sold how much or bought how much dollar amount. The reason you need this breakdown, some of you may need this breakdown because every card has a different processing charge fees. For example, American Express is the highest percentage that they charge you to accept the card at your location. I'm not exactly sure how much it is, but I believe it's close to 3% compared to a regular Visa card would be about 2.2% or 2.3% depending on how you negotiate your deal. Or if you're a branded station, then there is a standard setup for that, and I believe it's right around 2.5, 2.6 overall. But again, Discover and American Express charges you higher percentage to be able to have that service provided to you where your customers can charge those cards. So it costs you more money to take American Express than to take a Visa card. And lastly, there is another part of the report that says batch summary report. Now, you may ask, what is a batch summary report? Well, the way your register works is, let's say you opened at 6 a.m. in the morning and 2 p.m. you're closing your shift. If you had a lot of customers come through the door with credit cards, your credit card machine or your register is set up in a way that every time somebody charges a card, it goes to the processor and gets an approval, comes back and prints out a receipt, and your customer signs and leaves. But it has a limit of how many credit cards it can process at one batch. So every so often, there is no hard set rule that every 30 credit cards it will batch out. It depending on the dollar amount, depending on the day of the time, it may batch out at 20 cards or 17 cards or 18 cards or 30 cards. And it will send a summary of that batch to the processor and say, I like to get paid for this batch, please. Electronically, of course. So what the processor does is it takes in the batches, even though the network already provided a authorization, but now it's giving you the money or giving your jobber or whoever settles your credit card, it provides that fund to be transferred to those accounts for that batch. So let's say you have taken 40 credit cards in that shift. Your processor will not send you 45 different EFT amounts. Here is $11, here is $13.20, here is $17.50. No, it will add, let's say, 17 or 18 cards together and say, here is your $350. And then the next batch, it goes by the batch number. It's, let's say, in this case, you will see batch number 45 and 46. So in this shift, there were two batches because whatever credit card they have taken in, it was settled in two different batches. And why is this important? Because let's say 2 weeks down the road, one of the customer comes back and says, I came to your store on such and such day and I bought something, but I think you overcharged me. Or they go and call their credit card company and say, I don't think I bought this. It's a wrong charge. So at that time, your credit card processor will send you a notification saying your batch number 33 had a charge of $17.50, which the customer have disputed. So then you need to go to that day's report and pick out that batch number. And in that batch number, you should be saving all these credit card receipts. You will pull out that receipt and you'll make a copy and send it off to the processor and say, I don't think so. I think they did come to the store and charged it. Here is their signature and here is the receipt. So it is vital to understand why they're batches. And you can identify batches with dates even. Because if you keep a track of it, you know batch 45, 46, 47, 48, 49 came on January the 2nd or March the 3rd. So next 5 sets of numbers may be the very next day. And you may not have 5 batches in one day. You may have 7 if it's a busy day. If it's a slow day, you may have only 5 batches for that day. But again, that's how the credit card processes those transactions. So that's the end of the episode as far as the cash register report is concerned. And hopefully some of what I said has made sense to you, even though you did not look at the image. But if you get a chance, I strongly advise you to look at those images, and that way you will understand what those void tickets are, what the batch numbers are, what are the network reports, what is the department sale, where did I get that 79 packs of cigarette that were sold for $392. It's all there. So just visualize it, look at it, and you can put those two together and understand that this is what it is. And for those of you that haven't bought a gas station yet, it is more important, as I said, for you to understand this because you can analyze so much from just a report. If you randomly tell the seller, hey, give me 5 days of reports, but I will pick out some random dates and give it to me and I'll analyze them. You can tell so much from these reports. Okay, so we're pretty much at the 50 minutes mark. So as I said, we're done with this episode. I just have one request, which is if you think you like this show, if you think I'm doing a decent job, but it can be better, do let me know how I can serve you better. But if you think I'm trying, then if you can go to iTunes and give me a review, it would mean a whole lot to me. And it is easy to get to iTunes because I know I got an email recently that says some of us don't even know how to write a review on iTunes. Well, if you are downloading it in your Apple devices, I'm sure you're getting it from iTunes. And if you can go to your iTunes account, just type in on the search bar on iTunes, you can search Gas Station Business 101 under the store, iTunes store. It will pop up my podcast. All you do is right there it says rate and review. Just hit that and you will be able to do so. But in the meantime, if you think I need to address something else or I need to talk about other issues that you're concerned about, you can always email me at shabir@gasstationbusiness101.com. And I would love to hear from you. And I promise I would address the issue that you let me know and I will have an answer for you. And you can always also join my Facebook group. And again, I made a domain name. I bought a domain name and redirected it to my Facebook group. So simply you have to type my whole name, shabirhussain.net. will take you to my Facebook group. And last and not the least is if you haven't signed up for my newsletter, I'm about to send a series of emails that tells you how to come up with a valuation of a gas station, how to find a gas station to buy, and how to analyze profit, how to analyze return on investment for a gas station. If you're buying one and you want to know when you will get your money back, those are the things that I've done already, and I published it in a book. But I don't want you to buy that book. I want you to get it through your email. So do sign up for my email, and the best way you can do so is by going to my site, gasstationbusiness101.com/subscribe. Or you can go right on the front page and underneath, and if you scroll down, you will see it says subscribe to the newsletter. And you will have all this valuable information delivered to your inbox for free. Don't have to buy anything. And I did forget to mention that I recently started doing a video cast on YouTube's where I am teaching how to do bookkeeping on Microsoft Excel. Remember, we're talking about how we need to enter data in Microsoft Excel for our sales tax and all other tax purposes, and for you to know how much you're doing monthly sales and what department is selling how much. Is your cigarette sales picking up or dropping? You can only see that trend if you keep this data in a Microsoft Excel. That way, at any given point, you can compare month-to-month data. So I keep all of my data in Microsoft Excel, and I know there are other programs out there, and we will discuss some of those at a later date. But for now, I am teaching, or showing, I should say rather, how I keep books in Microsoft Excel. And there is a video that I already put up. It's the very basics of it. I just started with one basic video as far as how to start entering data into a Microsoft Excel file. And in the next video, I will get a little bit more detail into it. And hopefully the third video will be a little bit more where we can see how we calculate profit, how we see department percentage, profit percentage, so it can calculate all of those separately and tell you how much money you made by selling $13,000 worth of soda previous month or $15,000 worth of beer for that month. Those are the little bit more involved things that we'll get to, but I have already put up a video. It shows the basics. So any of you are interested in seeing that, you can go to YouTube and type Gas Station Business 101 and it will bring you up that video. And I will also link it on my show notes. If you're going to on my website to see the images of this cash register report all the way to the bottom, you will see a link to that video on YouTube. I will link it. Thanks for spending your valuable time listening to the show. And as I said, any concern, any comments, anything you need to tell me, feel free to email me and I will respond back to you. Thanks once again, and I will see you next week.
This has been the one and only Gas Station Business 101 podcast with your host, Shabir Hossain. This podcast was brought to you by CSB Academy Publishing Company. Be sure to join us next time as we share with you the secrets about how to start and operate a gas station business successfully and make money.